Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix. Welcome to Yacc, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game I played for a week and then I talk about it. This week's game is Robocop 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was released in 1991 and it's a single-player platformer shooter developed by Ocean Software and also published by them. And also there'll be some spoilers up ahead, just so you know, but first a little backstory. So a friend of mine, Tyrannosaurus Sharkus, played Robocop Rogue City on Twitch. And I had a couple of drinks, and all of a sudden I was the Robocop expert. I mean, I watched the animated series and I watched the movies, and I kind of have I kind of understand the background of the character and stuff like that. So when I confronted him about playing this game, I actually blamed him. I was like, this is your fault. You made me play this game somehow unconsciously. And of course, we all laughed about it afterwards. So the plot of this game is based on the movie with the same name. So Detroit streets are flooded with a new dangerous drug called Nuke, and it's up to Robocop to stop it. So when you start up the game, you get a bunch of logos and text, and then you get a large sprite of Robocop firing at nothing repeatedly. Then you can select between start, continue, high score, 1 or 2 players, music, and sound effects on and off. And if you wait a bit, you get different demos of gameplay. And then it's time for the first stage, and Robocop's objective here is to find a nuke laboratory and deal with the enemies and destroy the small containers with nuke in them, and they are marked with the letter N. And you can also find these containers with a W. I think those are like weapons. You can also find an icon with an I, which is invincibility. And I should probably mention that the first stage takes place in this harbor-looking area, and at the top of the screen you have score, enemy counter, and energy, and once the energy meter runs out, Robocop just collapses into parts. And of course you have a couple of extra lives as well. Normally Robocop just shoots the enemies outright, but if they get too close you actually punch them. And at the end of the stage you get a percent counter of how many enemies you've taken down and how much of the nuke dispensers you actually destroyed. And if you don't destroy enough, you have to go to the target range, and then you're sent back to the first level again until you actually manage to, destroy all the nukes. So there are some secret areas. You have to go down to the sewers, and it's not even indicated where you need to go, but there's this pipe you have to go down by, and there you find some extra nuke, and from there you can actually continue on. And I should probably mention that the shooting range area is kind of wonky because you move the crosshair on screen with the D-pad and you have to fire at certain enemies and you have to avoid shooting innocent people. So I don't know, it feels like it was kind of forced in some weird way. And in the next stage you are in a factory setting with orange ugly backgrounds. You have to save blue waving hostages while dealing with enemies, moving platforms, and of course destroying nukes. The drug I mean, on conveyor belts, and there's also a section where you need to avoid lightning. Next up, some hovering platforms through electricity, because why not, and avoiding some gears, and if you get hit for any reason you just fall to your death. Some more platforming, and you can also get crushed by the pistons at the end. And of course this game is brutally hard. So next up is Kane, the main bad guy. He has, with the help of his gang, set up a larger factory for, making Nuke, the drug. And basically it's the first stage all over again, but with more enemies and different varieties of them. And there's a secret area where you need to go down and destroy more Nuke. So next up is Murphy unlocking some memories. So you need to do a sliding puzzle, which is timed. And if you manage to make a face out of the sliding pieces, you get extra lives. And the next stage that follows has fat guys in red shirts with blue jeans on their knees firing and other weird enemies. And of course you need to save hostages and do platforming. And at this point I realized, why should I torture myself with this game anymore? So gameplay: help Robocop stop Kane and his gang from distributing Nuke all over Detroit City. Control the D-pad is movement, the B button fires or punch if you're near an enemy, the A button jumps, and the stop button pauses. Graphics. So this game looks washed out and bland, and the color choices doesn't really make sense in some of the areas, and for some reason Robocop's sprite is actually flattened. Sound and music. Jonathan Dunn made the soundtrack for this game, and I actually liked it, especially stage 2. It actually reminded me of Jurassic Park, and it actually makes sense because this game was developed by Ocean Software. Easter eggs, secrets, and glitches. I watched a tool-assisted speedrun of this game, played by Demon12321, Demon spelled with an I, not an E, and he beat the game within 10 minutes and 28 seconds. There are also secret areas in the game where you need to duck in certain places to get to extra stashes of Nuke in the sewers. There's also a secret target practice stage where you need to fire at Nuke containers in order to destroy them, and there's also a section where you need to crack a digital safe. So in conclusion, I wrote, no, this game is unforgiving, hard and frustrating. So Robocop moves like he's constantly on ice, the platforming is terrible, and there's a lot of trial and errors throughout the game. The graphic looks washed out and the color is all over the place. But the good thing about this game, if you have an enormous amount of patience, this game has unlimited continues, and if you're patient enough, you can beat it. But it's not worth it in my opinion, so go and play something else. So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.